In this Just the Two of Us episode of The Tech John, BrothaTech and I discussed the release of Apple Intelligence, Apple and Goldman Sachs having to pay $89 million for Apple Wallet issues, Google, Microsoft, and Perplexity are promoting scientific racism and AI research, and Congress thinks digital price tags could be problematic. Got all this and more for you in episode 152 of The Tech John from Columbus, Ohio. I'm your host, Robb Dunewood.
And out of Atlanta, this is Terrance Gaines, a.k.a. BrothaTech, a.k.a. Happy Apple Update Day for all those in the know. For me, I am still working on my camera issues. If you've been following the story, I do not want to buy a mirrorless / DSLR camera. So I am trying out a bunch of different cameras. My original camera, the problem I was having with it was it would make video editing much worse because anytime there was an interruption in the video, it would create multiple files. So I was trying to get rid of that. A couple other things. I did some digging. Come to find out, I found the production version of the camera software. Reason why that's so important is because it enables me to zoom in and out of the camera, adjust my focus, camera, contrast rather, brightness, saturation, color warmthness, all that stuff you can do with the software, but the software was causing the problems. The beta software was causing the problems. So I am on the production version of this camera's software. So I'm hoping at the end of this recording, there are not 5 files for me that we have to then edit into one video or audio podcast, depending on how Robb pulls the audio. So trying to get rid of that. So cross your fingers. If this don't work, I'm just got to be out $500-$600 to go get me a vlogging camera. But this is the last stretch. I'm gonna give it a last little go. Picture looks good. I still got some tweaking left to do into the camera software to get it tuned in just right, but it looks good. It's not the best. Again, my iPhone camera was the best possible picture, but I don't have any of those controls and I have to manually put the camera in the position, which is not conducive of my current setup. So all the way around the world to say this is the last go. We're going to see how it goes.
As I was telling you in the pre-show, it looks all right. And what I noticed, and we mentioned this last week, the fact that you have changed your angle a little bit, so we're now seeing your a Christmas story lamp in the background. Mm-hmm. It's giving you more light. You've got that white wall, so you're not just blending into the dark background in front of your cabinet. So even turning that light on and off changes the bokeh, it changes your depth of field. So like I said, you look as good as you've ever looked, with this particular camera. So,
yeah, and the cool thing about the camera software is I can change the bokeh and adjust that depth of field, which is what I want to do because, lighting may be different, situation may be different. So I want the software to be able to, I can tune that stuff in, but the software in itself is causing a problem. So hopefully I kill 2 birds with 1 stone using the production software. But enough of that.
We're gonna keep our fingers crossed. But right now, you look all right. So like I said, I think you might have got it.
Fingers crossed.
It is a big tech week, and it's really been a big tech month. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into some of these tech stories. And Terrance, I wanted to start off with iOS 18.1. So it wasn't just iOS 18.1. It was iPad OS 18.1, Mac OS Sequoia 15.1. They're now all generally available. The big to-do with these is that Apple Intelligence is included. It is, however, only included on specific devices. So you need to have an iPhone 15 Pro or higher. Any of the iPhone 16s, or you can have an iPad with the A17 Pro chip or an M1 or later, or a Mac with an M1 or later. So I just wanted to, get your take. I believe you were actually playing around with the beta. So
playing around with the public beta.
The public beta. So here's the question. Here's what a lot of folks are asking. I'm seeing 2 types of responses. They're both kind of over the top. It's like people are saying it's the greatest thing ever, and then people are saying it absolutely sucks. So I'm going to imagine that the truth is definitely somewhere in the middle of that. The big question I have, though, is that with this only working on relatively high end or brand new iPhones, is this the reason, from what you've seen just playing with the public beta, is this the reason to upgrade? Or if you're just rocking a regular 15 and you weren't in the upgrade cycle, could you wait out another year until the 17 comes out next year?
Well, I mean, you do whatever you want to do. Let's start at the end, right? But for those without a Apple Intelligence compatible device, so that means all the devices all the way up to, like Rob said, the 15 Pro. When you get the 15 Pro, 15 Pro Max, that's compatible with Apple Intelligence. And then all of this year's devices, the iPhone 16 Plus, Pro, Max, all of them are compatible with Apple Intelligence. I will say there are some dope features in this latest update that have nothing to do with Apple Intelligence. So just want to keep that in mind. Again, we'd have to go through a fine-tooth comb because everything that Apple has been promoting this update cycle, iOS, iOS 17, iPad OS 18, Mac OS Sequoia 15. Apple's been pumping Apple Intelligence heavy. So you will you would be very hard to find a detailed list of features that are not Apple Intelligence that are included in this update, but they're there, but they're kind of hard to see, right? Everybody's been waiting on, like Rob mentioned, everybody's been waiting on this Apple Intelligence. Apple has all but, and not even all but, they have actually said that the Apple Intelligence features that they debuted back at WWDC in June is going to come out in phases. So this iOS 18.1 that just dropped, that's available via the public, not via a beta, via the public, will give you like the first round of Apple Intelligence, which is email summaries, writing tools. It'll give you the cool little Siri, the new Siri. I call it the splash screen. Instead of just having a little circle pop at the bottom, the whole screen kind of jiggles and gives you like a little light around it. Does a couple of things, but this first stage, I would say if you are like, oh man, I'm not getting a phone until the Chat GPT version of Apple Intelligence comes out, you're going to have to wait because that's not coming out. It ain't come out in this round. May not be even be out in November. Maybe they announce something by the end of the year, but it's going to be in phases. So we get a little bit now, get a little bit later, get a little bit totally later until maybe March. I'm going to say maybe March of 2025 is when all of Apple Intelligence will be out. And that'll give you the ability to do the Genmoji to where you can make your own emojis based on different scenarios. You can do the ask a question or say, hey, Siri, ask ChatGPT how to make a margarita with just tequila or something like that. You know, those features that everybody's grown accustomed to with intelligence, with AI, with LLMs, that's not here for the Apple device yet. So to answer your question, if you're waiting for everything Apple has to offer as far as Apple Intelligence, you're gonna have to wait. It ain't in this version. But for those who do have it, you'll get some nice features. Like the one I can recommend people try immediately is the cleanup tool, to where you take a picture,
the image cleanup.
Yeah, something's in the background. You want to get it out of there. You press the little eraser tool. It'll either automatically highlight things, or you can circle stuff or kind of color in what you want it to go, and it'll get it out of there. That would be the first thing people could try. And that's probably the most satisfying part, because you can actually sit through, and I've done this. I've actually sat through for hours and just went through my photo album and was just finding pictures with stuff in the background. So let me see if I can get rid of that. Yep, got rid of it. And then I scroll through and find something else. So that would be the most satisfying thing. The most visual one would be the Apple Intelligence Siri prompt. And then the other one is the summarized text messages, summarized emails, summarized calendar events, to where it'll give you like a 1-sentence summary of everything in that email, calendar event, message, whatever the case may be.
So you mentioned a couple things. One I want to go back to. So you said that the integration with ChatGPT, that is not in this. But to be clear, that doesn't mean you can't use ChatGPT on your phone. There are people who are listening, saying, wait, I got ChatGPT on my phone right now. That you can do. Is the one that is integrated into the Apple Intelligence that you don't get until sometime later, and you don't get it all if you're using something less than a Pro 15. So one of the like I said, one of the complaints, or just one of the, I'm not even sure if it's a complaint, but one of the things that people are saying is like, here's the thing, though. If you are completely happy with the way that your iPhone 14 works, you got an iPhone 14 Pro Max, and you're just not ready to upgrade. Maybe you want to wait until Christmas before you get a new one, or you even wait until the iPhone 17 comes out. There really isn't anything that you can do on this, with the exception of as you were saying, the being able to edit your images. That's really cool because it's visual and you can feel it and you can see it literally immediately when you put this update on there. All the other stuff, you can approximate it using ChatGPT or using Gemini or using Perplexity or using any of these other AI bots that you can just install on your phone directly from the App Store. So are you really missing out? Is that the reason to upgrade? And you did say, well, you upgrade because you want to. That's enough of a reason. But if you are, like, you got a brand new iPhone 15, do you get the 16 just because you can now get Apple Intelligence? I don't know that the answer to that is yes.
No, but that's always been the case. Yeah. Every iPhone, there's been a case where, oh, should I get this one? This one has the bigger camera. Or should I get this one that has wireless charging? Should I get this one's got USB? Should I get this one because it's got the, whatever the case may be? There's always something that people's like, nah, that ain't enough. And I don't think I think it's interesting that people thought that just because Apple came out with this new feature, like Apple Intelligence, that was going to open the floodgates for everybody who ever thought about having a phone, or everybody who currently has a phone, or everybody who has an Android was going to be like, oh, that's it. Apple announced Apple Intelligence, game over. Everything is going to be Apple now. If you thought that was the case, then you you ain't really, following technology for the past 20 years.
If I talk about some of my Apple using friends and family out there have been folks who have seen a feature come out on the iPhone that had been out on Android for a while. And because it became real to them, that's when the feature started to exist in the world, which kind of makes sense. If you don't have something on your phone and then your phone gets it, that's when it becomes real to you. This is one of those situations where this really ain't even that for the iPhone. It's like AI is there in a big way, regardless of whether you're using an iPhone or not. And even now that you have Apple Intelligence on an iPhone, it's not even close to what these other AI, these other LLMs are doing. And that's what a lot of people are saying. Is like, well, I've been saying this for a while. I think one of the reasons that Apple is releasing their artificial intelligence the way that they're releasing it, the fact that, I think we talked about this last week or a couple of weeks ago, they were even kind of poo-pooing what some of these other LLMs are doing, and they're talking about the flaws, is because they are so far behind where OpenAI is. They're so far behind where Microsoft is. They're so far behind where Perplexity and Google and all these other, companies that have been focusing on this literally for years and years and years, that Apple can't release anything that's going to approximate what those, can do. So that's not even the route they're going to go. It just doesn't make sense for them to do it. So this is one of those features to where, it really does not feel like Apple is going. Now Apple's got it, so it's really a thing, which kind of is the case in a lot of ways, particularly in North America. A lot of people use iPhones here. Just not necessarily the case when it comes to artificial intelligence, because what the iPhone is doing right now, some of the videos that I've watched, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. And I kind of went to, what is the thing that I would use today? I would use the image stuff, because the image, if I can magic erase something, that's kind of cool. That is something that I can see a use for literally 20 minutes after I would update the phone to it. So,
yeah, and if you like ChatGPT and you've been using it for years, or Gemini or Copilot, that shouldn't change. I think people are like, oh, Apple's getting in Apple Intelligence, so that means they're going to try to trump whatever ChatGPT is doing. They're going to try to trump whatever Gemini is doing, or whatever the case may be. To me, that is not Apple's goal. Even when they announce everything from Apple Intelligence and you can finally get all of that stuff on your phone, Apple Intelligence is going in a different direction. Although it has some of those features, to me, they're like, how can we apply this to iPhones and apply this to Apple users. Apple has, like you mentioned, they've got years and years and years and years and years of user information that ChatGPT and Gemini don't have. Now, Gemini
Hmm.
and all the other ones are scraping the internet for information as a whole.
Right.
But Apple was like, we don't care about information as a whole. We care about your information. So all of those calendar events over the years, all of those emails over the years, all those notes you have in your phone, all those text messages, all those settings, those preferences that you have tweaked and notifications and all that stuff you've tweaked between the iPhone, iCloud, iTunes, Apple Music, all of Apple's properties and their services. We're going to create an intelligence that curates, consolidates, bottles all that up, and makes it better for you. That's
Mm.
my impression of Apple Intelligence. Again, they call it AI, so people automatically compare it against Gemini and GPT and all those things. But Apple's like, yeah, we're going to use some of those features as well, but we're going to do it and customize it to your individual use. So we'll see how that works. Again, it ain't all out yet, so I can't 100% say, oh, it's going to be the best on an iPhone. I can't really say that yet. And that's the dig, because Apple announced this and they're like, all right, now we're making these phones that's going to specialize for Apple Intelligence, but we're going to trickle out the actual features. So that's the
Mhm.
rub that a lot of people are dealing with. But I don't believe that it should automatically be compared against Chat, even when it comes out. It shouldn't automatically be compared to all the other ones because they're doing a little bit different.
They definitely are. Apple is, in my opinion, a hardware company that does the software for their hardware very, very well. And that's really different than Google. That's definitely different than OpenAI. OpenAI is an AI company. Microsoft is Microsoft, but the big thing happening at Microsoft is AI. Google is search. That is what Google is. What it was, what it's going to be tomorrow. But what they're hoping is that you will search with their AI and still click on ads every now and again to make them some money. Apple really has never been that. Apple has been about selling you the hardware.
Right. And
And
case in point, you can ask Siri to ask ChatGPT something. You can eventually, when they introduce or
Mhm.
integrate Copilot, when they integrate Gemini, when they integrate all these other things, you will still be able to use those things, and Apple is going to integrate their devices into those. So that should tell you it ain't gonna be, oh, I'll only ask Apple Intelligence this versus only asking ChatGPT that. There may be some things that you are fully have integrated into your daily life that can only be done via a paid subscription of ChatGPT. Apple's like, all right, cool. Use that. Just use our devices to kind of trigger that conversation.
So we will definitely have to come back to this. I would imagine time and time again as Apple Intelligence gets more and more integrated into the 15 Pro and up and all of the iPads and Macs that have access to it. So we will see what this looks like in 6 months time, in a year's time, so on and so forth. But we're going to keep it on Apple because Terrence, you stuck this in our rundown, but Apple and Goldman Sachs, they got a hefty little fine coming up. They got to pay $89 million because of all the Apple Card issues that the two companies have been having. Why don't you tell us about
Yeah,
what's going on there?
and not Apple Card issues as far as technicalities, but Apple Card issues as it relates to customers. And what I mean by that is the CFPB, which is the what is their group name? Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. A federal agency has ordered companies, Apple and Goldman Sachs, to pay a combined 89 million in penalties to redress to those affected. And who are those affected? Goldman Sachs often failed to investigate disputes Apple did send, damaging cardholders' credit reports. So basically, if I had a charge and it was incorrect charge or whatever the case may be, I reach out to Apple and say, hey, this charge is fake, it's fraud, it wasn't me, I've got the receipts to prove it, whatever the case may be. Apple was like, all right, well, we'll take that information. And since they're not a bank, they've got to pass it along to Goldman Sachs, which is the bank, and say, hey, this user, this charge, they said it's fraudulent. Research it, do what you got to do. Goldman Sachs was like, cool, and didn't do anything. So as a result, my credit report got dinged. My interest, I got charged late fees or charged extra interest because I'm waiting on this charge to come off. So I'm not paying it. You want me to pay a charge that ain't mine in the hopes that they'll refund me my money? No. What I'm going to do is
Right.
leave that charge on there, wait for you to remove it. But in the meantime, I get a late fee, yada, yada, yada. So that is the damage that they're referring to. They're not referring to people's phones getting damaged. They're
Right.
not referring to people's actual cards getting damaged. They're talking about the lapse in customer service that
The
Goldman
banking
Sachs,
side of the Apple Card.
the banking side of the Apple Card, which was messing people's stuff up. So since it's an Apple Card, Apple can't be like, yo, that ain't us. We passed the banking stuff off to Goldman Sachs. Y'all deal with them. No, Apple and Goldman Sachs together as a whole have to pay a combined $89 million, which is why that relationship, Apple or Goldman Sachs, they are like, nah, we're done with this. So Apple's looking for a new partner right now.
Mhm.
Goldman Sachs is like, we're out of the credit card game altogether. So I don't know if this was the linchpin, or the not the linchpin, the straw that broke the camel's back. But after this, I saw stories where Goldman Sachs is like, we ain't doing personal consumer finance at all anymore.
Yeah, so the way this reads is like both Apple and Goldman Sachs is getting in trouble. It reminds me of when I was a kid, and like I'd be with my cousin or something, and my cousin did something. We over to grandma's house, and it's like, so he getting in trouble, and I'm in trouble simply because I'm with him. And that's what Apple has happened right here. It's like Apple's like, we're not the bank, we can't control what Goldman Sachs does, but the government's like, nah, you with them, so you're gonna have to come up off this fine too. So I thought that was interesting. But like, just to reiterate, as you said, it's not a problem with the Apple Card. It's a problem with the banking. This is an issue between Apple and Goldman Sachs. For Goldman Sachs, it really looks like Goldman Sachs was kind of dropping the ball on this.
Yeah,
so
I don't think
go
they was
figure.
ready.
Can't imagine that happening.
Yeah, I don't think they was ready to handle the onslaught of consumers, when you're dealing with a credit card. But yeah, they're out the game now. And this is their Apple. Like I said, Apple's looking for a new carrier. That's some people have mentioned American Express. Some people have mentioned there's another group. I can't remember who it is, but Chase, I think, was one of the people talked about. But any of those people coming in, they're like, all right, we see what time it is. So, we ain't just going to walk into this blindly. We're going to ask Goldman Sachs for them references. And I'm pretty sure Goldman Sachs on the references be like, yeah, nah, they hit us with too much. I got overworked. I got burnt out too quick. So you may want to tread lightly going over there.
I wonder if some of the rules changes that may go into effect could be affecting this, because like right now, if you have like a late fee, unfortunately, a way that a lot of credit cards make a lot of money is by the late fees that they charge.
Sure.
Well, the government is saying, like, you know what? We want to cap those late fees. It's something that's maybe 20% of what they are right now. So when you lose 80% of your money because somebody paid late, you have to rethink things. It's like, is this business even worth it to me? Like I said, it's sad to say that this is how these companies are expecting to be able to make money. But it's like, we know if we give these cards to these people, that a certain percentage of them are going to pay late. And if they pay late, we can charge them this 40, 50, 60, whatever the fine is. And that's how we actually generate money for the business. If that goes away, if the government says, no, we're going to cap late fees, significantly for you, and you lose 80% of that business, then you have to think about, does that business still make sense for you? So there's always consequences and repercussions for regulation. This could be one of them, because like you're right, Goldman Sachs is like, I don't even know if I want to deal with money from regular people anymore. We, let's just deal with banks. That works for us. We don't want to deal with people. So y'all, in this next story here, this is another episode of how AI can be just as racist as people can be racist. In this case, Google, Microsoft, and Perplexity have been surfacing deeply racist and widely debunked research promoting race science and the idea that white people are genetically superior to non-white people. So I'm just going to ask you right off the jump, how is that possible with AI? How possibly could AI surface junk science about race and about white people being superior to them? Terrance, do you have any ideas how that could possibly happen?
Well, I mean, outside of it already being the case prior to AI.
Exactly. Yeah.
That is the internet as entertainment seems to be most entertaining when people are arguing. One of the popular things that people argue about on the internet is race. So these LLMs, these, they're training their information on stuff pulled from the internet, which is unfortunately, a lot of people have their opinions, air quotes, on race. So it makes sense for if that's out there in the ether, these LLMs and AIs are training on this stuff. So it's not a surprise to say that this is the information that these companies will spit back to you. Now, you would think that they would do a little bit better of doing fact checking, but this information is hot and heavy, and it's a lot of it. There's a
Yeah.
lot of racism out there.
So here's how this happened, and it's like it's a long article, but it's a good article over on Wired is talking about this, and there is a researcher named Patrick Hermanson, or what is this? Yeah, Hermanson, who's a researcher with the UK-based anti-racism group Hope Not Hate. And basically trying to do research to find out where some of these bad sources are coming from. And lo and behold, the sources that he's getting are from the bad sources. So, so long story short, there is a tech billionaire who was basically doing a bunch of, and this is really it is junk science, but they were looking at IQ of different people from different countries. And these numbers that they were getting were very, very oddly specific. It's like, well, how did you come up with, like, in this country, the average IQ is 77.2, and in this country it's 86.3. But the common thing is that as long as those as long as those countries have people who have, more melanin than the place where the research is being done, they're always lower in every case. And It's like, how is that? How are you coming up with that? Well, what it is that, a lot of this research it's been done literally up until the early 2020s, and it's just been generally accepted. So even though we know that it is junk science, it's like there's so much of it out there, and it's been out there for so long, we just tend to generally accept it. We don't question it. So what has happened is that as these LLMs are training on all the publicly available data they can get, they're actually training on the junk science that says that Black and brown people are from an intelligence standpoint, are less intelligent than their white counterparts. And that is actually making it into the search results. So once again, is the AI being explicitly racist? Is it calling you the N-word? No. But if it's trained on data that has a racist bent or a racist, slant, or is even prejudiced or biased in a way, you can't expect that somehow the AI is going to figure out what is and what isn't and spit out good information. So this is literally one of those things where it's like, junk in, junk out. It's like, if you train your AI on this research that we know is not good, but you don't actually go in and say, no, we have to pull this out. We got to pull that out. These are not good numbers. Then when you actually have the AI do its thing, it doesn't know that those numbers are not good. So it's going to report on them. And that's exactly what is happening here. In fact, I'm scrolling all the way to the end of the article. One of the things they say is that, so the fault isn't with AI, the fault is with academia, because academia is accepting these numbers, even though they know that they shouldn't be. And so if academia is
historical
accepting
data, historical
exactly.
data that they didn't go back and debunk, they just left it lie and like, oh, well, this was the sign of the times back then. Well, the internet is going to go back and dig all that stuff up. It ain't just start when the internet started. Publications that have been uploaded to the internet via libraries, via scans, via uploads, all that stuff goes back farther than when the internet was created, in the late 70s, early 80s. We've gotten information all the way back to, Christ almost as it relates to information. So the internet, or these AI models that are training themselves on this data, is training themselves through all that data. And a lot of that data, when we were, in our infancy, is junk science. It's, old, it's outdated. We've replaced it with new stuff, but that ain't stopped the AI models from looking at that stuff, and it probably pulled some stuff in.
So yeah, we have to be very careful. And we talk about it on this show and there are other shows that talk about this all the time, that you just cannot assume Well, it's AI, therefore it's completely agnostic. It isn't thinking about race. And it's like, well, unless it was trained to think that way. And anytime you have bias, the people who are creating the algorithms, if they have bias, that's going to seep into their code. If you are training it on data and that data has bias, that's going to seep into the algorithm. So when you ask questions, you're going to get answers based off of what the AI was trained on, not what and as you said, that we can go back 100 years and train these things on data and books and stuff like that have been digitized and put into these LLMs. If you don't go and say, no, this is not good, we need to counteract this. If you don't do that work, you're going to get results exactly like this. So this is one of those to where it's like, oh, that sucks. But then when I think about why it's happening, it makes sense. I get it. I absolutely understand, why it's doing this. So you Perplexity, you Microsoft, you every company that is doing this type of work, you have to be better at just getting this stuff out. It is a monumental task, and you can't just use as an excuse. And I'm not saying that these companies are, but you just can't use an excuse. Oh, well, that book was written in 1935, so we really can't help it. It's like, no, you kind of do need to help it. You need to be better at it.
Well, they could, but that, like you mentioned, that would take a lot of work. That would take a lot of manpower. That would take a lot of research, and that would take a lot of cleanup. That ain't what I didn't say is that would add more profit. So they're going to focus on the things that bring them more profit, which is training as much data as possible. And then just rely on the fact that they say, we've got guardrails and they actually say, let me find it. They say, where it says, we have guardrails and policies in place to protect against low quality responses. And when we find overviews that don't align with our policies, we quickly take action against them. Ned Adarance, a Google spokesperson, tells Wired. That's nice to say, but outline those guardrails, outline that technology, highlight the technology that specifically combs through the data and pulls out stuff that is inaccurate, old, out of date, harmful, show us that technology so we can feel cool about it. You ain't showing us none of that, but you said guardrails. I can say guardrails, but that don't mean I'm doing anything.
This is my response to that response. Excuses don't explain. Explanations never excuse. It's like, I understand what the issue is. What I'm saying is that you can't have that kind of issue. It's like you shouldn't be looking at data that says that basically black and brown folks are inferior. If you trained your AI on that, somebody had to make the decision to go look at it. So at some point, somebody needs to make the decision. Oh, we need to actually do some math to make sure that these are not coming up in results. I am not an AI, data scientist. I'm not going to try to play one here on this show. So I don't know what level of work is concerned. But when you are in 2024 exposing, views that are this racist, that are completely have been invalidated, you've got to do better work on it. The excuse can't be, oh, well, when we become aware of it, we're going to fix it. Like, no, you need to proactively go out there and search this stuff out because what you did what you searched on your algorithm for. So like I said, this is one of those things to where AI is going to have bias in it because people with bias are the ones who create it, and that's always going to seep in. And when you're training on data that has bias in it, that's going to creep in. So we've just got to do better work, and it will be more expensive to get this kind of stuff out. But it's something that you got to do because you're making things worse in some cases because some people are just going to just assume that this stuff is accurate when it isn't. Well, where'd you get that from? I was like, I got this from Perplexity. Where did Perplexity get it from?
Yeah. Just you keep saying, oh, they've got to do it. They'll probably look at you and like, no, we don't. We just deny it in articles.
Yeah. So, man, this next one we're going to talk about. Have you been in any stores, grocery store? Like Kohl's is the place where I've noticed it, but instead of actual price tags on the
Mm-hmm.
shelves. They've got
Mm-hmm.
these little e-ink or LED tags where they can
Mm-hmm.
electronically change prices instead of having to go like back in. I used to actually work in a grocery store when I was in high school, and I would have to, during the early morning when I would get there in the summer, you'd have to go in and you'd have to change prices for stuff that was like, getting close to the expiration date and stuff like that. And it was a very manual process. These LEDs are these, they're actually called ESLs, electronic shelf labels. Their intent is to make doing that kind of work much easier, much more accurate. But Congress is concerned that stores like Walmart and Kroger could use dynamic pricing with their ESLs and even use facial recognition to determine pricing, to do like surge pricing. So you know how when you use Uber, if you just want to go downtown and nothing's happening, Uber is going to cost one thing. But if there's like a Lakers game going on and you're downtown LA, the Uber is going to be a lot more because you get that surge pricing. The Congress is actually concerned that establishments like Kroger, like Walmart could actually use surge pricing to change the price on stuff just based off of foot traffic they might have because something is happening right there at that time. And they even go so far as to say that, well, you guys are using facial recognition. So if you recognize someone who comes in and buys eggs, 2 dozen eggs every time they come in, when you notice them, do you just jack up the price of your eggs by a couple of cents because you know that they're about to buy 2 dozen eggs? Those kind of things are being looked at by Congress. Both Google and Walmart have said that they're denying that they don't do any of this kind of stuff. Their whole contention is, this is actually going to make the jobs easier. It's going to cost the actual workers less time. That's actually a quote. It's going to cost workers less time. No, what it's going to cost workers is they just won't be doing it. So there will be fewer of them. It's not costing them less time. I think the workers would actually be happy to be hired and be able to go do that as compared to not have the job, because doing it electronically, they're not going to be there.
Well, I look at it as they can focus on other stuff versus going up and down the aisles replacing price tags. Now companies are greedy and they can be like, all right, well, since we ain't got nobody to do that, we don't need you. Exactly. My assumption is you can focus on other stuff, customer service, making sure the people are getting ringed out, whatever the case may be. I've never worked in a grocery store, but I'm pretty sure they ain't gonna be like, all right, bye. But again, this is America.
Yeah, so this is like, I remember the first time I seen, like, Kohl's is the store that I think that I've noticed these in relatively recently. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. But then when you think about it, they're electronic, so they absolutely could do this, and that's where the government's concern is. They're not saying that Walmart is doing it. They're not, which is denied it and saying that they aren't. They have no intention on doing it. They're not saying that Kroger is doing it. Kroger is coming out and completely disavowing it, saying this is not something that we're doing or something that we're going to do. But they're saying that the potential for it to be done is there. And when the potential is there, we probably need to look at it and make sure that consumers aren't being taken advantage of with surge pricing and stuff like that.
Well, this is one of those things to where this is a smart thing to look at now before 5-10 years from now, before, supermarkets, grocery stores start to do quote unquote surge pricing. It makes perfect sense for a company to try this and say, oh, we've got a hurricane coming. We're getting low on toilet paper. All right, we're going to jack up the price a little bit digitally, or facial recognition as far as, what type of, if they see me coming, Terrance coming, and they've got a record of what I buy every time I walk into the store, they know I'm about to go down the aisle and pick up some popcorn seeds. So, all right, well, Terrance is coming. Let's jack up the price and see if he notices a couple cents or whatever the case may be. Instead of waiting for that to happen and then government jumps in and tries to correct it, let's just tell them, yo, y'all don't notice. We've seen it with Uber. We've seen it with car sharing. We've seen it with airplanes. We've seen it with hotels. We've seen it with vacation stays. Every time, certain dates of the year, certain times, whatever the case may be, people jack up prices. We know grocery stores jack up prices for whatever reason. So what we're not about to do is make it easy for y'all to do. So we putting you on notice now, whether you're doing it or not. We're letting you know that we've got our eye on you. So the second you do it, you can't pretend like this is something new. You can't pretend like the government wasn't on top of it. We never had these discussions. We never called y'all in. We never asked about these things. We are asking you now. So when the time comes and you think about it or try it, we can be like, remember you said that y'all was never doing it, this and that and this and that. Now change the plan. Now what's up? Now it's in the hands of the companies to be like, oh, well, things changed. Suck it. Or you're right. We did say we weren't going to do that. So we're going to partner with you all to make sure, you know.
Yeah, this is, you got to be real careful in this because we already know that prices in the same regions are different just depending on where the store is. So if you on the right side of the tracks, your price might be one thing for a gallon of milk. Your price is literally the grocery store that is in eye shot of the one on the other side of the tracks or the other side of the freeway. It might be a few pennies more, a few pennies less. We know those things already kind of happen. So, these ESLs,
not a stretch.
Yeah, it's not a stretch. I'm glad that the government is looking into this. I am a capitalist, at heart. I want companies to be able to charge, what they charge, but I want it to be fair. I don't want you to charge one person one thing and then charge another person another thing and then charge another person the third thing. And that's what this technology could allow for. Now, like I said, we're not saying that it is happening. The two companies in this story, Kroger and Walmart, have both disavowed it. They're saying that they're not going to do it, that they're not doing it. This is not in any of their plans to do. But just as you said, that's what they're saying right now. But there's no law that says you can't do this. So that's maybe where the government is coming in and taking a look. And hopefully, we will come out to where you don't see surge pricing. Because it's like I don't use Uber much, but I've seen, the times I've wanted to use it is generally because there was something going on downtown. I wanted to, I needed to get to a parking garage that was 2 miles away because I didn't park close or something like that. And it's like, whoa, why are these prices so much more now than they were when we got here? It's like, oh, because everybody's trying to use Uber right now. Surge pricing. I don't want to see that with milk. I don't want to see that with,
it's coming.
Kansas.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you know it's coming. They're going to start and it's going to do it. So again, government's putting you on notice. It's like, all right, you can do it with us or you can fight us, but you're on notice because it's coming.
Yeah. So Terrance, this last story we're going to talk about, Roblox. So Roblox is adopting some new child safety features. Tell us what's going on with Roblox.
Yeah. So, my kids play Roblox, and like I've mentioned, I make sure to monitor them and make sure they're not doing certain things that I don't find acceptable, as their parents or whatever the case may be. But there isn't a whole bunch of parental controls within Roblox that I can set, So as a result, Bloomberg has reported that Roblox is adding enhanced child safety features sometime next month. These include new accounts for parents that will allow them to see what their kids are getting up to online, as well as requirements for parental permission to access certain features or modes for players who are 13 or younger. As popular as Roblox is, this is stuff that they should have been did. Those two things, allowing parents to create parental accounts, Netflix does it. Nintendo, like for instance, I've got Switches for my two oldest daughters that I'm now converting for my son to play. And I've got a Nintendo account that I've never used, but I use it to set up the parental controls for my kids. So when they are buying games, downloading games, whatever the case may be, if it is not in, if it's not in accordance to the parental sessions setups that I've made, then they can't do it. I mean, Switches have been out since way before the pandemic.
Oh yeah, like I think the Switch came out in like 2017, 18.
Yeah,
it's been a minute because I got one in 2018. So they've been out for a minute.
And Roblox has been out just as long. So it's surprising to me that sometime in next month, Roblox is putting out features like parental accounts and requirements for parental permission for players under 13, right? It's crazy that simple stuff like that Roblox did not do, and they still ain't done it. Like they're rolling out next month. It's like, Is it that complicated? I don't know. Again, I'm not a developer. I'm not a CEO of a game developing studio with hundreds of millions of users on a daily basis. But it's just like, y'all waited this long to do this? What's up with that?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised when I saw it too, because it's like Roblox is not as big as Minecraft, but it's huge. It is a ginormous game that a lot of young people play. So the fact that they're just now doing it was like they didn't have that before. I mean, that's kind of, I just would have assumed. Now you know what assume says. You know what assume can say, and that would be the situation I would have been in. But this is one where I just kind of assumed that they did this. So the fact that they now are adopting it. Yeah, I guess is late is better than never. So, hey, I guess I'll give some props to it. It is never too late to do the right thing, because they should have been done this. So I will at least give them that. They should have been
did it, because most of the people, not most. Again, I don't have no empirical data or research, but my guess is most people playing Roblox are 7, 8, 9, and then maybe the older kids, maybe 13, 14, 15. Maybe there's some adults playing it, but Roblox is like the gateway drug to like online gaming. And then most kids, as they get older, they graduate into Fortnite. And then they graduate into Call of Duty, and they graduate into Destiny, and they graduate in all the bigger names. But like those younger kids, 7, 8, 9, 10, they on Roblox all day long. Ask me how I know, because I have a 7-year-old that is on Roblox all day long, and he's playing with other kids for the most part. There's some creeps out there. Again, there's some older folks out there, but all that to say, mostly kids are playing Roblox. So the fact that they are just now thinking about child safety features, it's like, come on, man. Come on.
So you mentioned it. I got to ask, I'm just changing gears. We don't have this in our notes, but I know you've played Call of Duty. Did you get Black Ops 6?
Man, I sold my PlayStation. I mean, my Xbox. I don't have no gaming console in the house.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, man. Look, if I ain't doing it, I ain't doing it. I cancel my Amazon because it's like, I ain't doing it. I like maybe earlier this year, I'd say around February, March, I sold my consoles. It's like, I ain't got time. I'm doing other things. I'm just going to get it out of my house. Now, having said that, my son's getting older. Like I said, we converted my oldest daughter's Switch, because she's 16. She don't care no more. So we're kind of moving that down into my son, and I bought like Super Smash Brothers. So me and him get together and play Super Smash Bros. So again, Roblox and a Switch is a gateway drug to a bigger console. So I can't say for sure that it'll stay out of my house, but we'll see. It may show back up, for maybe a Christmas or two or a birthday or two down the road, when the Switch just ain't cutting it no more for a 10-year-old boy.
So I have not sold my PlayStation 5 or my Xbox One or my Switch or any of the other consoles that I have. And I don't play like I used to play, but I still like to play a game every now and again. So I got a story that I want to tell in the after party. And for those who are wondering what the after party is, we'll make this segue now. The after party is where Terrance and I are going to hang out for another half hour or so after the show and kind of talk about whatever. So I got a story to tell about my Xbox in the after party. So for anyone who's interested in getting access to the after party, the way you can do that is by becoming a patron of the Tech John. If you were to head over to thetechjohn.com/Patreon, you will find multiple tiers over there, any one of which will get you access to our live stream. So not only are we a podcast, we are a live stream, and you get access to that. And you'll get access to the 25, 30 minutes of content we give you in the after party. So like I said, I got an Xbox story to tell over there, and hope to hang out with you. So with that being said, Terrance, tell folks I didn't get at you.
Yep, you can find me all over the internet at BrothaTech. That's BrothaTech.
And I am at Robb Dunewood on all the things, and we are at the Tech John on all the things. So come holler at us however you holler until we meet again in a week's time. Peace.